So obviously nobody can, well, no guitarist can do any guitar-y stuff without a guitar. And I noticed that you're holding a particularly lovely instrument in your hands, or on your lap.
I am indeed, yeah.
To be technical. Let's have a little focus on this. Let's bring this to the forefront of our discussion and just go through this signature guitar of yours.
Yeah. So this is the Ibanez TKM1, which still sounds weird, very strange. This actually came out in 2000, and it was announced in 2017, came out in 2018. But it's sort of part of a big collaboration that Ibanez put together with a bunch of guitar players at the time to produce a completely new range of guitars, which if you think about with Ibanez, that hasn't happened for a very long time. And now these are just as recognizable as RGs or S's or, you know, any of the signature models that are out on the market. But this is basically a derivative of the AZ range, the original AZ range, because there's a few different derivatives now, but the original AZ range that they customized for me, which was an unbelievable honor. Yeah, so
what a feeling that must be.
Crazy
to be involved in the process like that. Yeah,
completely mental. I still don't quite understand it, but I remember receiving the email saying we want to build you a signature guitar, and just like doing a very inappropriate dance at the time, I think, that thankfully
was it the Chandler dance from Friends where he jumps up on the table?
It quite possibly was something like that, yeah. It probably, well, it's a good thing it's never been captured on video, let's put it that way, but yeah, it was.
Oh no, we have some B-roll. We have some B-roll that we're going to jump in.
Intersperse that in right now.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I mean, obviously with Ibanez, it's like all of my heroes play Ibanez. So to end up with a signature guitar, I think my career could end tomorrow and I'd be very happy and satisfied, I think. Not that I want it to, but you know, it's a remarkable thing to have happen. So I'm very grateful and honoured for that to happen. It's remarkable, really.
Yeah, so you should be. That's like one of the things like all guitarists of any stage kind of dream of. At least I have, you know, that would be so nice to be able to at least have such a say in developing it to suit all of your needs and sort of like, you know, marry up different kind of specs and all that kind of, all those kind of components together to sort of suit you, and gets to a point where I feel like some guitars, everybody knows, or at least if you haven't experienced this already as a guitarist, there's sometimes a guitar just doesn't feel right. It just
absolutely.
doesn't feel, you don't resonate with it. And then sometimes you'll get to this point where you see a guitar that you just don't expect and you pick it up and you're like, oh, without being technical about it, something about this feels totally different. And immediately you're playing without thinking about sitting with a guitar or a bit of wood on your lap, you know? If we run down the specs, can you maybe explain to me how you landed on these and why you kind of chose them?
This might have been the easiest signature guitar project in all of history, because these guitars, so obviously Ibanez had this AZ, I say AZ by the way as an English person because that's the way they pronounce it, so obviously AZ, but it's AZ is the official model name.
Do you end your alphabet on Z or Z?
Z. But the model name is AZ, so that's why I use that. But these guitars they've been working on this project in secret for quite a while, and as I say, they had a bunch of guitar players who were very technical, a lot of fusion, a lot of rock, but very technical kind of players. What at the time, this is all pre this kind of very sort of technical explosion that's happened recently on Instagram. So I know it's sort of not completely pre, but obviously like the Polyphia guys were involved with this as well, Martin Miller, myself, because they wanted to make a guitar that would appeal to guys like us outside of the remit of a very pointy RG with a super skinny neck. So when they came to me and said, we want to build you a guitar, I remember being at the NAMM show 2017 when this project was, not this particular guitar, but this project was already a relatively long way down the line. And I was playing Fibonacci guitars at the time, which are beautiful guitars. And they said to me, we want to show you something. And they brought the neck of this guitar out. And I was absolutely blown away because I'd never experienced an Ibanez neck like this. Because you think about Ibanez necks, you think about they're really thin, they're really flat.
Wizard profile.
They're wide, the wizard profile. This is anything but that. It's much more of a kind of more modern Superstrat neck in that it's more like a traditional neck, but obviously it's much flatter. And it's essentially got a very, very comfortable shape. It's not glossed on the back, it's just very, very smooth. And the wood is roasted. They use this S-Tech wood, which means that I mean, this guitar is the most stable guitar I've ever had in my life. And I've had roasted woods before. I had an old Sir that had a roasted bird's eye maple neck, but these are roasted in a very particular way. I think they roast them in a nitrogen-rich atmosphere, which literally removes all the moisture from the neck. So Martin and I were doing, when we were doing the clinic tours, we were going from, in the space of 2 days, we went from Tokyo, which was crazy hot and humid, to Finland, and we were playing in Helsinki, and it was like -10, -20, and you know, the guitar just didn't move at all, so it was remarkable. But they were a long way down this process. So these guitars were designed for players like Martin and I. And so when it came time to actually spec one out for myself, it's like, well, guys, we don't really need to change anything. It's just about aesthetics, really. Because this is the same bridge that I was using already, a modified version of the same bridge I was using already on my other guitars. Always HSS for me, all my guitars are HSS. Pickup configuration, you know, is the same that I would normally use, but with this alter switch. Stainless steel jumbo frets, that's what I use anyway. Locking tuners, I was already using these exact tuners on all my other guitars. Bone nuts, so literally nothing needed to change from a spec physical perspective. Martin's the same. The only thing that Martin changed on his was the mahogany body, but I use alder on my guitars. I used to use basswood, but now all my guitars that I had from Fibonari were alder as well. So it's like, okay, well, this is the easiest process in the world, guys. Just make something that has a visual aesthetic that appeals to me. And at the time, all the guitars I'd owned had been very blingy, flame maple, quilted, spalted tops. And I felt like I'd reached a point in my life, my daughter had just been born, where it's like, I want something more natural looking, more kind of toned down, that feels more sophisticated, if you like, to me. It's not that it is more sophisticated, it just felt more sophisticated to me. And so I was
going to say it feels more adult, but I don't know if that's, I don't know if that would go down well with the guitar community.
No,
some flamboyant guitars are good. But.
This is it. That's not what I mean at all. But I mean, these do get flamboyant. So I have another one back here which has been customized with some different pickups, and this one has this crazy, insane top. Now, one of the reasons why we picked this wood is that when you do a signature guitar, what you can't do generally is have a custom guitar kind of feel where if you have a flame top, they all have a flame top. They're all generally picked from roughly the same stock of wood. They're all roughly the same quality in terms of the, you know, AAA, quadruple A, 5A or whatever. With this guitar, every single one of these guitars looks different. So you always feel when you, like, I've seen hundreds of these things now being sold all over the world, and everybody who buys one gets a custom shop feel because it looks and feels, well, not feels, it looks different to the other ones, which is not, I mean, if you buy, let's say, a Joe Satriani Chrome Boy, they all look exactly the same.
Fingerprint magnet.
Yeah, so they're a beautiful guitar. It's great. And obviously, if you buy a Chrome Boy, you're buying it because it looks like a Chrome Boy. But what I love about these guitars is that you have a sense of a custom shop guitar because they're built to that level. They feel incredible to play. They're like a supercar style of guitar, but not a hypercar, if you see my. So if you think about like the super slim wizard neck of an RG being like a hypercar style guitar, this is a fast shred machine guitar. It's got the string spacing is slightly closer. It's got super high-end components, so you've got titanium saddles. You've not got the locking nuts and Floyd Rose or low pro edge of a kind of hypercar style RG. It's a more refined supercar style of instrument, but you've got the stainless steel frets. You know, you've got the bone nuts, you've got the locking tuners, you've got the roasted woods, you've got high-end construction, you've got binding around the top, a big thick top. There's no veneers on any of these guitars. So it's a proper high-end Japanese built guitar that is incredibly, you know, beautiful to play. It's just so slick and comfortable to play. So I don't play anything else now. I mean, I have this guitar, I have the spare at the back, which has got some hotter output pickups on, just for slightly heavier stuff. And then there's just in the corner there, you can just see the blue guitar there. There's a Japanese custom shop version, which is essentially very similar guitar, but with different woods. That is just a one-off, so flame maple neck and stuff, but it's a derivative of. So, as I say, the easiest process in the world making this guitar. I mean, there's very little back and forth. We're actually working on something right now which has got a lot more back and forth involved with it. But this was so easy to make choices on. I mean, you could have handed me any AZ, bar the aesthetics, and I would have been like, that's the perfect guitar for me, because it essentially is the culmination of all of the things I like about guitars. And, you know, a lot of the guys who ended up with a signature version of this, so myself, Martin, the Periphery guys, the guys from Chon, we all had that very technical approach where closer string spacing, lots of legato or kind of hybrid picked stuff. And these guitars were designed around that aesthetic as well. There's a couple of really like cool utility things as well. They've got these are showing up on a lot of guitars now, but the loom inlay dots. So you've got the glow in the dark dots on top. I mean, I don't find myself playing on dark stages very often, but you know, it's that kind of thing. Like, why would you not have that on there?
It's better to have it.
Yeah.
Better to have it and need it, not have it, that kind of thing.
Just because I don't play on dark stages doesn't mean that other people who want a TQM1 are not going to play on dark stages. So it just seemed sensible.
It comes in handy.
Yeah, and little aesthetic touches. So I have abalone inlays on mine because I am a sucker for just enough bling these days. I mean, I haven't actually ordered or own any really blingy guitars anymore. I have ones that I own that I still have, but I don't have any newer guitars which are blingy at all. They're all kind of either solid custom colors or they're like this, because I just think I reached a point where aesthetically I wanted something slightly more stripped back, that appealed to that, you know, that part of my brain where I am now, basically, in my aesthetic kind of mindset. So but it's an amazing guitar, so fun to play, very easy to play, sounds amazing. It's just a complete legato machine. So as I mentioned to you, I'm plugged into the Quad Cortex, and I'm like, I tend to use the bridge position a lot for all of that. And what I love about the Seymour Duncan Hyperions, what I love about them is they're like the least offensive pickups ever, because they don't accentuate any particular frequencies. So they end up being like this platform that you can then layer your sound on top of. So they don't have like a really honky mid-range, they don't have a really pronounced bass end, they don't have too much treble, they're not too high output. So for me, you can really start to layer up and tailor your sound. And there's some really nice kind of, again, utility things. So like, I like a single coil in the neck, because I just like that kind of, that splashy. That appeals to me. I'm a big Wayne Krantz fan, so that appeals to me. But you can, if you flick this switch up, you can wire these two in series to get a humbucker sound. So if you're more of that kind of fatter jazz tone, that's in there as well. Obviously, I've got a little bit of crunch going on, but
is that the alter switch?
That's the alter switch, yeah. So this whole system is called the Dynamic system. So you've got a five-way switch, which is standard for HSS. You also have a five-way switch on the dual humbucker guitars as well. But then you have this alter switch, which gives you 9 sounds on this guitar. So you can split the humbucker. You can wire the split humbucker in series and parallel with the neck pickup. And then you can do the neck and middle single coil in series as a humbucker. So you don't get the, you can do the out of phase thing as well, but you can do them in series. So what you get is a humbucker with slightly more clarity, because what you find is that because this coil is further towards the bridge, and obviously the further towards the bridge you get more clarity and more kind of treble, kind of more string separation, more clarity. You get a humbucker sound, but with that extra added clarity. So if you want to do a more kind of jazz archtop box kind of, you know, sound, you can do that. And that's what I ended up using for a lot of the jazz duo stuff. Then you can flick the switch down when you're You know, you want a little bit more brightness and a little bit more traditional single coil kind of sound. So in effect, you've got the best of both worlds, because you've got 3 single coils if you have the switch up, and then you've got 2 humbuckers as well, which is amazing from a, you know, a HSS guitar. So all worlds covered. I mean, I don't use all the sounds, but it was one of those situations where it's like, why, you know, change something if it's not broken? I mean, the access to those sounds for other people is really, really useful, especially if you do studio stuff. You need to get a pseudo tele sound, or you need to get an archtop sound, or you need to get, you know, like a Strat style neck single coil sound, or an out of phase to position 2 and 4. You can do all of that from this guitar, whilst also having that kind of raucous from the bridge pickup if you want to. So it's very cool, a really, really amazing achievement by the guys at Ibanez. And that's kind of played out in terms of the sales of both this guitar and also the AZ range generally, that people have really taken to them really, really well, and it's great to see.
I guess it's going to cater for any evolution in your playing or anybody else's, just to have all those options. As they say, for the studio, you can mix all the kind of different combinations if you're double tracking or you're quad tracking guitars, or even if you're changing genres. Like some people play in different bands that are completely opposing genres, and it seems to be one of those guitars that would pretty much have all bases covered.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing guitar if you're in function bands, for example, and you want a high-end guitar that plays really well and also travels really well. You won't, I mean, apart from the tonal palette, which obviously is something you mentioned, I mean, I've got like, what, 9 different amps here, and I can plug into any of these amps and I can find something that works. Like, for instance, I have a Friedman Dirty Shirley up here, and then a Marshall Silver Jubilee. Now, the Friedman has got an insane amount of low end on it, and it's the mini version, and even that one has got the insane amount of low end on it. And you can totally, like, if you go to the bridge pickup but you flick the switch up and go to the single coil split mode here, you can get some fantastic kind of, you know, more cutting kind of sounds. With the Silver Jubilee, you can dial out the low end to keep it nice and tight, and then if you switch to the a standard single coil in the neck position, it's a little bit too thin compared to the humbucker in the bridge. So you can then flick the switch up again and get these 2 in series for a humbucker sound, and you get these creamy lead tones from the Silver Jubilee. So it really does cater to any particular scenario you find yourself, both in terms of genre or in terms of gear. So for guys playing in function bands with modeling gear, for example, like a Helix or an Actifex or a Quad Cortex, which we'll get onto, you can really start to find the sound very easily without having to do anything drastic. And you can play any particular genre as well, because it caters for great clean tones, jazz tones, funk tones, you know, whatever you need, essentially. So it's great.
I don't think it would look out of place in many genres either.
That's the thing. That's the great thing, and that's why one of the reasons why these came about, because particularly this model is very inoffensive in any genre. You could turn up to a jazz gig with this, no one will bat an eyelid, or you could turn up to a metal gig and no one will bat an eyelid. But with an RG or an S, they have particular associations visually. Like me, at the beginning of when we were talking, I was saying I turned up to my jazz performance degree with an RG 570 with like a flame blue top and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's a guitar with 6 strings on it, but it's not. There's an extra element to the aesthetic and the visual thing that, yeah, we find it important for whatever reason, and I guess it is important. So yeah.
Just remembered that when I was studying music, I was playing. There was a couple of times I was studying music, and I was quite young. But we were doing different performances, like they call them pastiche pieces. They're all like different, you know, different kind of genres. And I was playing them with a BC Rich Warlock, like one of the Calendar series.
Amazing.
And I was a goth. I was a goth at the time. So
awesome.
all my classmates were just looking at me like, who is this guy?
Amazing.
Like he's just sitting playing like blues on this Warlock, which was, the neck was warped and the intonation was all over the place, and the strings, I didn't know anything about string gauges at that point in my guitar career, so I had like a set of 9s on it, and it was just a picture. I mean, you could picture it now.
I can. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing blues on a BC Rich, but it's just something.
You do get looks.
Yeah, you get looks, and there are certain acceptable paradigms within guitar that, you know, you're supposed to fit within, or sort of guitar visual tropes that you're supposed to fit into. But again, these are very flexible in that regard, and it doesn't matter whether you know, even the slightly more blingy one, you know, is fine, or They do a whole range of different guitars that none of them are offensively in a particular genre. And I think that's what's nice about these modern Super Strats, and it's one of the reasons why I love this guitar, because I pick it up and visually, if I'm not in that blingy frame of mind, this is so aesthetically, it's aesthetically pleasing every time I pick it up. You know, it suits my mood always, because you know, it's just a natural wood color, and who doesn't like natural wood? It just looks great. You know, it's an attractive thing. And again, this whole concept of, if you buy a TQ-M1, you're getting a unique looking guitar that won't be the same as anybody else's. It will have this unique grain structure, unique color structure. The wood, by the way, I didn't mention it. This is called Monkey Pod.
I did wonder about the Monkey Pod. I looked at the Monkey Pod and I was thinking, one, that's a great name for a wood.
Absolutely.
And two, what kind of like inspired that choice to focus in on? Maybe it's just the name is cool, but there must be a practicality use somewhere.
Well, when you do, one of the cool things about Ibanez is when you do any kind of signature or custom guitar, and obviously you can't go and order a custom guitar, but if you're an artist, you can order custom guitars, is that they will do 3D renders of the guitar for you. So you can see it from any angle. So you get a really good idea of what it's going to look like before it's built, which is obviously useful, because generally when you do custom guitars or signature guitars with other companies, depending on the company of course, you get to see it when it's built, at which point you can go back, but it's a pain because you end up with loads of prototypes. Whereas they can show you what the guitar is going to look like before it's built. And obviously what they do is they say, well, these are the woods that we've got. And obviously with a company like Ibanez, it's not like having one of these small boutique companies where they've got this piece of wood and you go, I'll have that piece of wood. They have a stock of wood, and you're choosing a type of wood from their stock, and they have a 3D render of it. And you can see, okay, well, this is the body shape of the TQ-M1. We've got the alder, we've got the roasted maple neck, we've got your abalone inlays on. Here's a bunch of different woods and a bunch of different tops. Have a look at them, these 3D renders. Have a look at what you like. These are the tonal properties of it. I'm not that worried about the tonal properties of it, because I shape my sound post the guitar, if you like, and I have a very particular sound in my head that I've never really picked up a guitar where I thought, especially if it's HSS and it's got similar output pickups, where I thought, well, that just sounds completely wrong to me. You know, I can make it work, it's fine. So these tops I really liked for the reasons I've mentioned, because they're very unique, and you know, this particular structure I thought looked really nice. This stippling structure from my guitar, it's like someone's taken a pen and kind of stippled the structure on. I think it looks really great. I guess the nearest thing to this would be something like Korina in terms of the tonal properties. But again, if you asked me to describe the tonal properties of Korina, I'd be like, I don't really know. I just like the way. I mean, that's just like the way it looks.
That's, you know, that could be a big point of contention with many people about sort of tone woods, and there's a big old debate on all of that, really, isn't there? So, and I'm not. If it looks good and it feels good, then
that's it. I'm not dogmatic either way on that. You know, I don't particularly have any particularly strongly held beliefs either way. But I know what I like the look of, and if it doesn't affect the sound in a way that's negative to me, I'm quite happy to go more with the visual aesthetic, because it's only a small, I'm not making any claims here, but it's only a small, you know, a few millimeters of top. Whereas the older definitely is going to make some kind of difference to it. And obviously the roasted maple neck and the stainless steel frets definitely will make a difference to the high end of the guitar. But I've always found I can shape the tone of the guitar, and the aesthetic is the thing that it's so important, because every time, it's like buying a car, every time you look at that vehicle or you look at this guitar, that's the thing that gets the heart racing, you know. And then you pick it up and you play it, and then there's this secondary, just as important, not secondary in terms of importance, but it's secondary because the thing that makes you want to pick it up is how it looks. And so this... The appeal, yeah, which would be the curb appeal, or it would be the showroom appeal, or the, you know, the hanger appeal of the guitar. That's, for me, this, when I look at this guitar, and of course, any signature guitar, the aesthetic that you go for is not going to be for everybody. So I totally appreciate that some people would look at a signature guitar, no matter what it is, and go, nah, it's not for me. But for me, this guitar, when I look at it, there's an emotional relationship, obviously, because it's an Ibanez signature guitar. That's crazy. But every time I look at it, I think, man, that is a good looking instrument. It's not a bling instrument, but it's a really good looking, classy looking guitar that gets my heart racing every time I see it. So yeah, it's
Yeah, it enters that sort of level of whenever people get into bespoke things, they all have a sort of characteristic that you're just drawn to.
Yep.
And obviously with the guitar, the way it's set up to cater for you as a player, it's obviously an efficiency machine.
This is it.
Like it helps you, yeah, it doesn't get in the way of what you want to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's something that everyone should probably think about when it comes to guitar. If it inspires you and you can get the sounds out of it and you like it, nobody should make you feel any other way about it. Then, you know, that's why we have such a huge array of different kind of guitars, and the variety is the spice of life, as they say. You know, it's
Absolutely.
one man's guitar is another man's bass, one man's bass, another man's ukulele. You know, it's all or woman's. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, variety is the spice of life, and I know it's a cliche, but it's true. You know, and the signature guitars will always be divisive because of the nature of them being a signature guitar, and with these in particular, you know, we got the signature on the front and stuff, but they are generally very, they're not like shouting. You know, it doesn't shout Tom Quayle to you. It's not written across the flipping fretboard or something, or on the 12th fret. So they're very, it's a very subtle instrument in that regard, very subtle in many ways. But again, it's a high performance guitar that you could play anything on, and it's incredibly well set up. You know, from the factory, it feels great to play, and you know, it's just, if anybody's never played a Japanese, if your experience of Ibanez is playing, let's say the premium range, which are absolutely awesome, by the way, they're amazing and they're great value for money. I do know people who prefer the premium range, or even, you know, some of the lower down guitars. But if you've never played a high-end Japanese Ibanez, they are as good as anything else on the market. They are absolutely remarkable guitars, and the workmanship is phenomenal. So I'd encourage you to check them out and try them out, because, you know, they are remarkable instruments really across the board.